Have a look and tell me what you think about where we should cut it in terms of height. Is it a sub-trunk that's breaking out from under the canopy and reaching for the sky, or are we cutting it back a bit lower and having it as like a heavy first branch? Let's start with pruning this first feature branch. That piece was dead in there, and then in here we've got another little dead shoot. Just going to cut back some of these stubs, and I'm cutting back to the first pair of strong buds. So with this one, we have this year's growth here, which has got 2, maybe 3 buds on it. There are also 2 buds further back, there and there. So I'm actually going to cut back into the previous growth. This has died back and it's underneath and on the inside of a bend, so let's get rid of this piece. Because I've actually got some buds right close down in here, I might just cut back to leave the one because it's getting a bit long out there. I cut back to that side piece there, and then we're looking for 2 good buds. We've got 1 there and 1 there. In terms of length, I don't yet know how long I want these to be, but I'm pretty sure if I cut back to here, same with this one, pretty sure it won't need to be longer. Same with this shoot. Cut back to leave 2 buds. I need to sharpen my shears, I think. Here's an example of what happens if you don't keep on top of those stubs that we leave behind to allow for dieback. You get like a sort of a knuckle as it grows around the stub. It's quite possible that we can't fix this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the knuckle off like that. It might be that eventually when we come to refining this branch, we cut back to here so that we are growing these 2 shoots and we remove that ugly knuckle. But for the time being, I appreciate the ramification that this branch gives me, so I'll just make that cosmetic cut. And then this wound here is starting to heal. We did keep on top of the stub that's formed, but we can see that it's starting to create a bit of a knuckle. We've got 2 pieces coming from that location and there's still a bit of a stub there. To address this, I'm going to come across the top here and a little smidge of callus mate just to keep it nice and healthy. What's the verdict then? I don't think we need it all the way up here. There's a nice little side shoot here that we could cut back to. Or do we cut back to this piece here so it's not leaning too far away from the trunk? There is an area of negative space here and that could be used. Alright, I've got a decision. I'm going to cut back down here. I'm going to slice these crushed areas, being careful not to cut too much material away. Just looking to establish a nice cleanly cut edge, being careful not to cut any of the twigs nearby. We're not cutting diagonally to transition the taper because that increases the surface area for air to get in. So we've cut perpendicular straight across the branch, left a nice stub, trimmed the edges, and then we've got a nice application of cut paste with a wet finger so it doesn't stick to us. Looking for a nice tidy finish. We don't want a big bulging end if we can help it. Lovely. Now it's time for some wire for these secondary pieces. That's looking nice. Just trim that back. And then this piece is longer than I need. Boom. Looking good. Not quite ready to make a decision on this branch. Let's just see how it plays out in this area. Alright, I don't think we need so much depth on this back branch. And because I've got a nice piece of ramification, I don't need all these twigs, so I'm going to start the process of cutting this one back. Don't need this one as long as it is. Now we've got a group of 3 back here. I don't know which one I want at the moment. I'm going to remove the piece that's facing backwards, and then this can come out somewhere like that. At this stage I don't know whether I want the length on this piece, so I'm going to leave that for the time being. It depends how we go with this one. So this branch here is getting quite long. this is the feature branch and it's pushing off in this direction. So we don't want this to be sort of equally long in the opposite direction. It's going to make the tree feel very symmetrical. So I'd quite like to compact this one back a bit if I can. So let's see what we've got then. We've got a nice shoot here. We've got another shoot off this one. So let's actually cut back, leaving those two. There we go. I've left two very tiny buds on that twig. Then we've got secondary. So let's cut back, leaving two little twigs left behind there. 1 and 2. This one is quite long. So in fact, there is a bud just there, and there's a side shoot there. So let's cut back to the side shoot. There is a bit of a knuckle. Cut the knuckle off. Now let's see if we can clean up these knuckles. Just take some of that old bark from the outside of the cut. The old bark leaves a sort of an almost rim, and it doesn't look very tidy. So just a little trim like that. Just cuts the bark back, and then in the middle, just got the remnants of the stub. It's quite hard to get that out of this scale, especially without chopping my thumb off. That might just be as good as it gets. I think that's looking much better. I think there's scope to move this one up a little bit, fill in some of the space up here, and then this can come round. This one can come sort of back a bit. Yeah, let's do that. So there's a little tiny bud there just above my shears, and there's a bigger bud there, so I can cut that apical one off. And there's a very tiny bud just at the base of that branch, so I'm just going to cut back to that stronger bud there. On this piece, there is a couple of buds quite close in there. Just cut back, leaving two. And there's a little tiny little nub just there between my shears, but I'm not confident that one's going to grow, so I'm going to leave those two buds there on that one. On this branch, we've got a side shoot there, got another little one there, one at the top, and then it's got two at the tip. I don't need all this length. I'll prune back to that piece there. Down here we've got two bits of ramification. We've got two buds on that one. Maybe that'll grow, but I don't know for sure. Up on this one, we've got a very tiny bud just in there. Not confident in that one, so I'll leave these two. I'm starting to look at the role of this branch now. It's serving several purposes at the moment. I wonder if we can simplify it. We've got this piece facing up here to fill some space up here. This guy's coming down to fill in this space. We've got a piece towards what is essentially the side, but as you look at it, it's coming towards the back. And then we've also got this guy just sitting in here. I think I'm going to keep this piece, but I'm going to move it just down and round just a little bit more so that it fills in a bit of negative space that's kind of creating a visual loop here. This branch is very useful because we've got quite a big gap here, big old piece of negative space that needs to be filled. So I think we could do something with that. And that leaves me with this one that's sitting almost vertical, and we've got a very nice piece in the apical region that we can use in this space. I just don't think we need this. It's got some kind of cool movement, but I just think it's unnecessary. Also, as you look at it from the front, there's a knuckle forming, which doesn't look very attractive. I already pruned something in this area and I've put some paste on it. If I cut this off, I'll enlarge the scar. I'm going to cut it off and leave a stub. It's not going to look very refined in the short term, but once that compartmentalizes, I'll treat that so that it's less of a knuckle as you view it from the front. Now that we've got the apex sorted, I can just come through and address the length of some of these branches. So I cut back to two buds on that one, two little buds on this piece, and I don't think we need that length. this branch can get cut back. In fact, we don't need this length, but I haven't got much more to cut back to be honest. There's 2 buds on that one. Yeah, let's do that. Got to 2 on there. I don't need this obnoxious curly long thing. That can go. Go back to 2 buds on that one and that one. I don't actually think the ramification on this one is worth keeping, so get my hands in here and then just tweak this down just a little bit. To be honest, I don't love this branch here. It's a little bit awkward and it's also longer than I need. So let's drop that back to there. That's better. I'll cut that back to a bud. Got plenty of really nice tiny buds all along this branch. It's a nice couple of buds there to cut back to. Because I want to push in on this side, this is quite long, got quite a bit of length on this one, so I'm just going to find me some nice little buds. Nice couple of buds in there, so just chop back to those. There's a bud under there. Let's cut back to that one. I'm not going to prune anything else. This branch in particular was a bit weak this season. Let the top go a bit, which shaded out this guy, this branch and this branch. I think we're done.